Hi, I'm Chuck Walsh, and as we wait for a westbound New Jersey Transit train to come through Port Morris Junction, just wanted to let you know this is update number 27, and we're going to be talking about what's happening in 2026. Today's video is about what's going on or near the cutoff, and we'll be going from east to west on the cutoff. As the train leaves, we see work going on the cutoff, but it doesn't have anything to do with the cutoff. Talked to one of the supervisors here. They're pre-plating wooden ties, and they're doing it on the cutoff over here, and they're stacking them over there. And they'll be ending up anywhere in the New Jersey Transit system, but not on the cutoff. Well, the cutoff is going to be concrete ties, by the way, but this is an unexpected activity on the cutoff. And now we've backtracked a quarter mile from Port Morris Junction. Okay, the station's up on the left here. You can't see it from this angle. Built in 1911. This bridge that we see is due to be replaced very soon. And if we pan around here, the building that used to be here is gone. Lake Hopatcong is right over the hill here, the other side of the road. And now we face towards the cutoff. The future grade crossing at Brooklyn Stanhope Road, also known as County Road 602 in Sussex County. Here we are, roughly about 2.5 miles west of Port Morris Junction, County Road. As you can see the sign, 605, Sparta Stanhope Road. In the distance, you can see the old bridge here. This is the new bridge that we're standing on. Just in the very far distance there. That one was abandoned and was replaced by this bridge, which prevented a fill-in. In other words, the proposal would have been to cheaply just fill this in and put a road on top of it. We were able to stop that and get a bridge. And that's relevant to what happened at Slateford Road in Slateford, Pennsylvania, which we're headed towards. Occasionally I get questions about North Jersey Rail Commuter Association, so here's a little bit of background about the group. We were incorporated in 1980 as a nonprofit. It was originally planned to be a common carrier, in other words, a railroad actually. But since the mid-1980s, North Jersey Rail Commuter Association has been dedicated to the restoration of the cutoff, which included saving the overhead bridges on County Road 605 and 521 from being filled in and County Road 602 from being daylighted. And our major accomplishment so far has been the successful 1989 New Jersey bond issue, which obtained $25 million for the acquisition of abandoned railroad rights-of-way in the state, and that was used by New Jersey DOT to acquire the cutoff. So here's our founder, Fred Wirtz. He started the group back in 1980, and in 1987, we were really going full throttle, if you will, with promoting the idea of acquiring the Lackawanna Cut-Off. Here we are in September of 1987 at the Hoboken Festival. Here's some slides we were using. I use these a lot. Here you see North Jersey Rail Commuter Association, a nonprofit. Goals: preserve railroad rights-of-way in the state of New Jersey, promote railroad use, educate government officials and the general public. You see our immediate goal was preservation of the Lackawanna Cut-Off. Cut-Off bridge replacement. Lack of maintenance has led to deterioration of bridges over the cut-off. County engineers propose filling them in areas rather than replacing the bridges. This would obstruct the right-of-way and make preservation more difficult. And in 1987, the quote-unquote current problem was with County Road 605 in Sussex County and 521 in Warren County. And here you see the summary of the bridge problems: 605, 521, 602. And we asked people to write to their freeholder board, and that's before the name was changed to commissioner. So here's County Road 602 in Stanhope. You see the original setup here with the cutoff going off to the right and the 602 underneath. Here it's still there, but they're in the process of constructing I'll call it a grade crossing, quote unquote. It will be a grade crossing. And there you see the finished product with the at grade crossing. In Blairstown, this bridge would have been filled in as well. It would have been another obstruction. Here's the 521 bridge crossing in Blairstown from above, the new bridge on the right, and the original 1911 bridge on the left. And here's another possible place where a bridge might have been filled in. This is Silver Lake Road in Frelinghuysen Township. And yet another Roseville Road in Byram Township. So we could have ended up with 4, 5, 6 blockages along the cutoff. So here you see the warning: if no action is taken to preserve the cutoff, the state of New Jersey will lose this opportunity forever. And that opportunity was the bond issue, as we see here in 1989, that $25 million. If that had never come along, I don't know where we would be right now. The cutoff would not be publicly owned, to say the least. Here we are on top of Roseville Tunnel looking west towards Colby Cut, and in the far distance the Roseville Road overpass. Lots of rockfall mitigation has been done here. Now let's go down and visit the tunnel. Well, here's where there was supposed to be a communications tower built. I guess that's in phase 2. Phase 1 was the tunnel, inside the tunnel. So let's start our walk down an old narrow gauge rail right-of-way that was used during construction. And that's the way to get down to the east portal of Roseville Tunnel. This is where the narrow gauge right-of-way comes down off the top of Roseville Tunnel from C.O. Johnson Park in Byram Township, New Jersey. And here we are at the east portal of Roseville Tunnel. Rockfall mitigation or stabilization is supposed to occur in phase 2 of the Roseville Tunnel project by New Jersey Transit. Phase 1 was the restoration or rehabilitation of the tunnel itself, the interior part. We'll take this a look in a second here. Just to remind you that phase 1 and phase 2, and we'll talk about maybe phase 3, which is supposedly where they're going to actually start right-of-way clearing and laying track, the rest of the track from Port Morris to Andover. But that's separate from step 1, 2, and 3 that we've talked about with the FRA for the project from Andover to Scranton. So let's go over and take a quick look at the tunnel. Here we are inside Roseville Tunnel. The work here is basically complete except for whatever has to be done with the roadbed, track, and so forth. They put these containers here with the intent of keeping vehicles out of here, but it doesn't really appear to be working. To the electronic type of piping. A little curious is they've done work here on the east portal. You see all these stabilization spikes or whatever you want to call them. So I don't know exactly what it is that they're planning to do that's going to go beyond this. I guess we'll have to wait and see about that. One other thing that's going to happen at Roseville Tunnel, and that's part of phase 2, is that they're going to bring in an electric line, which Jersey Central Power and Light is going to have to somehow grant them an easement, or New Jersey Transit has to obtain an easement to bring the power in probably to the top of the tunnel, I'm guessing, for the tower, the communications tower, cell tower that's going to be there. And so that's phase 2. They're saying 2 or more years for that. And they haven't talked about what I'm assuming is phase 3, which is to put the track back. So that's basically a quick summary of what's going on with New Jersey Transit to Andover. We'll just take a quick look at Andover, but we're basically done here. It's rather lonely here at Andover Station Stop, the future Andover Station Stop. 7.3 miles west of Port Morris Junction. As we look west towards the Peak West Fill, the shipping containers have replaced the work trailers that were here for several years while the Roseville Tunnel project was going on. Really not much of anything here now. I'm not even sure what would be stored in those containers, but at this point it is quiet as can be here. Our next stop is at US Route 206, where it crosses under the cutoff.
This is a project that no one is looking forward to. The work on the tunnel underneath the cutoff on Route 206 in Andover. They will be rehabilitating the tunnel lining and then the roadway, and then underneath the roadway there's a stream. All that needs to be fixed. There hasn't been a rehabilitation probably since the cutoff was opened in 1911. We go underneath, and the alternate routes that would be needed for the 6 to 9 month project are less than optimal, to say the least.
Here we are at Greendell Station. One of the things we're working on here will be the return of the overhead signal bridge that which once stood more or less where this sign is right now on Wolf's Corner Road. It's not going to be put back there. The right-of-way of the cutoff is on the other side here of the station. And you can't make out the tower, maybe just a little itsy-bitsy top of it in the distance, but Amtrak comes through here, they will be coming through here, right where, more or less where I'm standing right now. Time will tell. Okay, here's where Mill Road goes under the cutoff. We've been talking to some of the folks from Frelinghuysen Township about this. There's a stream that runs under here to the right, and it's caused problems, and there's hope that there will be some rehabilitation. They'll be coming along at the future. There we are at Blairstown Station. It's been up on the sales block, if you want to call it that. It was listed for $999,000. That includes the area here plus whatever the Balby folks own, which includes the express station or freight station you want to call it, that's behind the station over here looking westbound. Amtrak is not going to use the station building. Originally, when the Lackawanna sold the property after passenger service ended in 1970, it became a radio station for a long time, and then the Balby folks picked it up after that, and they still own it. CrossFit business runs out of here, and they occupy or use the building, but that at this point is about it. We'll see. Here we are at Slateford Junction, looking west or in the compass north toward the Delaware Water Gap. There's a lone tank car sitting here, and we've come here to see Slateford Road, which, as you can tell, you can't see. It's behind all this brush, but it is a fill-in. In other words, the road has been built upon a fill. That was the case when the cutoff opened, and for the next 80 years, there was a bridge here which carried Slateford Road over the cutoff. That was filled in, and that now is subject of I don't want to hesitate to call it a study, but certainly work by PennDOT to replace the bridge. Now, exactly what they're going to use to replace it with, will it be an actual bridge, or is it going to be like a prefab type of what would look like an underpass, and then there would be the road put on top of that? To be determined. But in any case, it's being worked on. The engineers at PennDOT are working on it. So even though you're not seeing much of anything here, it is an important project. And the reason why it's so important is that this would, with an opening here, either a bridge or an underpass, would provide access to the Delaware River Viaduct, which is about a mile from here east, and for work that would be done by Amtrak to rehabilitate that bridge. Right now, as we were talking about before, with New Jersey Transit being in phase 2 of Roseville Tunnel, well, we're in step 2 of the FRA Corridor ID project. And what that means is that a service development plan, which is basically a study separate from the Slateford Road Bridge quote-unquote study, is being worked on, and we'll see, in terms of how that progresses. Maybe optimistic to think about that being completed by the end of this year, 2026, maybe sometime in early 2027, but we'll see. Once again, that's also to be determined. So as not to disappoint you, I'll give you a shot of what it looks like on top of this Slateford Road fill-in. I'm reluctant to call it an overpass. It certainly isn't an overpass. The cutoff is below us, right here. But this is a fill-in. And this is where the cutoff ran, right through there. You kind of can see the gap between the trees barely. And well, this is a view from this side. You can't even see the tank car, although I'm facing directly towards it. But this is it. This has to go and be replaced by whatever it's going to be replaced by. A lot of tie work is going to be coming. About 43,000 ties are going to be laid from here until we're all the way up to the top of the hill, Tobyhanna, somewhere in that neck of the woods, up on top of the Poconos. So that's also money that's been set aside for work on a passenger project. It's not for freight, it's for passenger. So I think that people are concerned about not necessarily seeing anything tangible happening, and that's been the case many times over the years with the cutoff. In this case, there actually is stuff going on. It's just that I can't at this point walk up to people that are actually building something right now because we're not at that stage. Hopefully we'll get into step 3, and when that occurs, that's when we'll start to see a lot more activity, and then beyond that, construction. But that's still some time away. But nevertheless, as an update, I wanted to provide you all the different things that either are in process or we know will be happening in the near future on the cutoff. So that's the end of update number 27. Look forward to update number 28 on the Lackawanna Cut-Off.